Hey everybody, it's Chris and Hannah Kirkpatrick with Life 180, and we're back for the second video on our playlist. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I just fixed my hair.
You did? What?
I was so that girl.
She's just like looking in the camera, doing her hair.
I was totally fixed. Do we want to start again?
No, that was perfect. We're going with that. You're totally going to be embarrassed.
Hey everybody.
Hey, so all right. I think after our first video, we've been talking a lot and getting feedback, and it's been, for the most part, really amazing. And we were talking earlier about the concept of this work-life balance and kind of what a joke it was, right? Like but at the same time, it's kind of important to understand, like, what is work-life balance? Why does it actually become an issue? Because, you know, we're both driven, entrepreneurial-minded individuals that have worked together as a couple, running multiple businesses for 18 years essentially on some level, which, man, we're getting old. So we've been doing this a long time. It hasn't always been pretty.
No.
I'll say that. We'll probably save a lot of that for another video, honestly. But I haven't always been great at communicating. Like, a lot of the stuff and a lot of the reasons that we're doing what we're doing is because the first 8 to 9 years of our relationship was a total train wreck. Like, I mean, there were a lot of good spots there too. I don't want to like totally diminish like our relationship for the first
Mexico
9
weekends
years.
don't count as good spots.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
but the first,
Maybe they
the first 10 years was, or maybe 8 years was a mess in a lot of ways. Like, our communication was horrible. We weren't transparent with each other. There were a lot of secrets. There was a lot of distrust. There was a lot of insecurities. There was a lot of just resentment. Those things that happen because, quite frankly, you just don't trust each other. I think it all kind of builds from trust, and you don't have, well, we did have a shared vision. We just weren't on necessarily the same track to get there.
I think we didn't invite each other into deciding how to get there.
Yeah.
And making that intentional.
Yeah.
And like getting opt-in. So we always talk about in marketing, I don't mean to hijack your introduction.
It's okay, go ahead.
But it just made me think of it. We always talk about in marketing,
I'll just drink my seltzer.
You're allowed, just so you guys know, this is like our happy hour right now.
Yeah.
The kids just went to bed, all three of them. We
Yeah.
made the older ones put themselves to bed. They're 9, 6, and 2. And it's like 8:45 right now, and my bedtime's in 15 minutes, so we're getting a little loopy. But we have decided
Loopy with hot chocolate and seltzer, by
hot
the way.
chocolate in a reused Starbucks, by the way. I did not just go buy this. I keep them around. I'm thrifty like that. Just saying. But yeah, so we're doing this because it's a passion of the heart, right? Like, that we both just feel this call to our hearts that it's important to talk about the yucky stuff of marriages, and the yucky stuff of marriages plus business makes it even harder. And then marriages plus business plus entrepreneurial business or corporate business, they're both two different tracks that we each know very well because we've been in entrepreneurial life forever and we've been in career consulting. There's a hot mess going on in there for most people. And so there's nobody that we really had to look up to learn from. And I think all of us do this, right, you guys? We bring in the only concepts of what our marriage is to look like, we bring in from our parents. And he brought in what he wanted to replicate and what he didn't want to replicate. And I brought in what I wanted to replicate and what I tried to avoid like the plague. And that can be just as destructive, obviously. And so, yeah, we had a lot of tough years, just like anybody. But I think at this point in time, we're happier now than we really have been. And it isn't because of the money. It isn't because of the stuff. Yes, it's lovely to have a wonderful house and to not worry at night that tomorrow the lights are going to be shut off. But we never know a couple months from now. And that's the thing that we've learned too. And we have to be able to operate in unknown and in those places of, well, oh crap, what if? And in those places of fear.
With anything.
So for me, like, it's learning how to operate when you're in a state of unknown and in a place of fear. But this video isn't supposed to be about that. So that's where I am in the season of my life right now. And maybe I'll do some of my own videos, but
All right, feel good?
It comes into everything. No, I'm feeling the hurt of what's happening in my life right now with an ill family member. That's giving a lot of indecision, like a lot of unknown and a lot of fear and a lot of how do you navigate through that unknown? And I think it's always been a crossroads for me, and maybe some of you will relate to this, which is the only reason I'm talking about it. There's always that crossroads of, do I become a turtle? We call it my turtle syndrome. When I hit fear or overwhelm, or what we say with the kids, big feelings, I'm crappy at naming my feelings. Sometimes I just know that they're a whole lot bigger than me. When I hit those, I can either turtle up and I tuck into my little shell and I don't want anyone to help me and I don't want to talk to you and I don't want to be intimate, I hate that word, and share with you to help me feel better. Or I can try really consciously to go against my nature and to try to connect with you and allow us to create a plan of how we're going to act intentionally through and in the indecision that we're in. And so that's the season of my life that I'm in right now with this indecision is the wrong word.
It's uncertainty.
Uncertainty. That's what I mean. Just take away all the times I said indecision and make it
replace
uncertainty.
it with uncertainty.
Just replace. Yeah. Like Control F, replace. Thank you.
Control F, it means find.
Control F, find, and then replace.
Oh, okay.
It's a find and replace situation.
I got you.
Anyway. But in those moments, when we choose the connection, that to me is what this conversation looks like. And if it's in terms of work-life balance, which we don't like that term because we think that it's more seasonality. That's see, I was bringing it back.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, brought it back. See how I did that? Right. Brought it back to seasons as opposed to like a day-to-day work-life balance. Because folks, any of you who are in business for yourself or those who are even in corporate business, you know there is it is very difficult to find a day-to-day work-life balance. We do our best, but it's more like weeks or months of intensity and then withdraw and then intensity and then withdraw and you ride the waves. I'll let you talk.
And so, no, I think that's great. Like, I think I also don't want to lose sight of the fact that most people don't have both a marriage or working relationship with their spouse like we have, right? So we've been forced to work on it a bit more. We also were blessed, and we talked about this in our first video, which if you haven't seen, I think was really good. It was. I've gotten feedback saying so.
You're not allowed to say that.
I can.
That's so
I think
arrogant.
It was really good. I think it was really good. But here's why. It's like, no, I don't mean it like that. But
Do you want to fix your hair?
You're such a dork. God,
I think it was really good. You were great.
You know what? You're unbelievable. We've had the opportunity to kind of reset, even though the beginning of our relationship, the first several years was what I would classify as kind of a train wreck. We had the opportunity to kind of start over and redefine what our relationship was going to be like. And most people don't have that. And quite frankly, most people, not to toot our own horn, but like most people wouldn't have gotten through what we got through. And we'll probably save that for another video.
Definitely.
We don't have enough time for that right now.
Definitely.
But we
definitely.
When we redefined, thank you, Rayman.
I was wondering.
So you didn't even know the reference. You're like, I know it's a movie reference. I know it is, but I don't know which one. So he'll call me out and I'll know what it is once he says it. That's exactly what you were thinking about.
I do love you for your brain.
So at the end of the day, we got to redefine what we wanted this to look like. And that was what turned out as like what started as really hard and challenging, and where everybody around us is like, how and why are you guys even trying to make this work, has turned into 12 years later, 11 years later, looking at it from a perspective of like, most people envy what we have, you know? And that's only because we live with a certain level of intention and accountability and transparency, which all leads to trust.
And radical honesty,
which I would classify as transparency to like radical transparency.
And creating a very safe space, as I like to touch on, because you can't have radical honesty and transparency and all those things without knowing as a partner how to receive those safely and, you know, not throw them back at the other person or use them against the other person or, you know, throw them under the bus or bring it up decades later or all of that.
Yeah, no,
crap.
100%. So you got to be careful with that. But like,
all those are different videos.
So
today,
to stick on the topic of what we're talking about, but I think it all plays into this. I do, because
it
all plays into this. And that's why these topics, when we want to talk about a certain topic, it's really hard to stay on point, because it all weaves together, right? Because there's certain principles of making this work that we've found for us that are kind of non-negotiable, that play into every single part of your relationship, and that those are kind of the basic principles that you have to have. And there's some other things, but when it comes to the work-life balance conversation, you know, it really kind of drives me. I know, I'm really good at that. It's hard for me because I hate that statement. I really dislike it, because there's no such thing as work-life balance in the classic sense. And I would say that if you have an issue with work-life balance, if your spouse is getting upset with you with work-life balance,
here we
go.
Here he goes.
If your spouse is getting upset with you with work-life balance, I would say that it's your fault that he or she's upset with you. And just for the sake of my vernacular, I'm just going to speak to men right now. But if you're a woman listening to this, know that I'm speaking to you, and you could replace the word wife with husband, just so I don't have to keep saying he and she and blah, 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 blah. So here we go.
Darn pronouns.
So I know, it drives me crazy. So here's the deal. When you run a business, it's hard. It's a grind. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of uncertainty. And when you're doing it alone, I mean, granted, we do it together, so we have to like communicate on a daily basis anyway, and we have a different level of communication. But even so, it wasn't always the case where it was easy, and we didn't always communicate the best about it.
Always have other businesses that we're not each part of.
Yeah, and we're not always involved in all things we're each doing together. We always have something going on together, but like not everything. And so there's always kind of uncertainty or unknowns going on. There were. And so I think it's really important to bring your spouse into the loop. Now, men, and wives, like, once again, I'm just going to speak to the men and just replace it. What I would tell you is that as soon as your wife comes to you and says, honey, I need you home, like that you're not balancing work and life, you know, you're not ever here for me, you're not here for your kids, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, and all you think about is that dreaded, I can't believe she's getting on my case. I can't believe she's riding me like this. Like, I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this to provide. That is the most common thing that I hear. That is one of the things that leads to divorce, probably as much as anything else. People always say it's money that drives divorce, right? Infidelity and money lead to divorce. Well, I got news for you. Like, those I would put as number 2 and 3 behind this, which is the fact that you're not bringing your wife, your spouse, into the loop to help her be like, to give her the authority over what's going on with your business. Now, that's really important to understand. Now, I'm not saying
that's heavy.
Your wife should be running your business or that she should be in your business, because she probably doesn't know what you do. It doesn't have your skills and like all these things. But what I am saying is that outside of your faith, the number one priority in your life is not your business, it's your wife. It's not your kids, it's your wife. Period. And that is the most important thing to understand. When you make the comment that, how can you be giving me this hard of a time because I'm doing this for our family? What you're saying is, your opinion doesn't matter. I'm doing this my way. You have no decision in the matter, and you just have to sit back and trust me. When at the same time, you're basically saying you have to trust me without saying it. And she's thinking, how can I trust you? You never communicate with me. You never tell me. I don't know what the heck is going on. I don't know what you do. I have no insight to anything. Right. And so then what happens is resentment builds up on both sides, which leads to you not performing at work well, because it's constantly, you're tormenting yourself. You have like anxiety around it. Your wife is home resenting you, that you're not there, that you're not with the kids, that she didn't have a say in it, that she doesn't feel heard, she doesn't feel understood, she doesn't feel taken care of, she doesn't feel like that you care, or that you desire, or that you want to be around her, or that you even care about her feelings. She always feels second to the business, right? Like,
when your wife feels second to your business, you're on really thin ice.
and I think men do that a lot specifically, and I'm sure some women do as well, but like, they do that with the best of intentions, right?
Yep, I see that too.
And it happens, and I get it, and this is not a judgment.
It's your built-in like provision.
Provider.
Right.
Like, yeah, totally. And I think it's there, but we need to be really cautious to make sure that we're aware what we're doing and why we're doing it, and make sure we have our priorities in alignment, and make sure that it's not that you don't want to go work 80 hours if you need to work 80 hours. I mean, what you have to do, you have to do. But it's important about how you come to those decisions and the buy-in that you get. It's not that hard. Trust me, it's way more difficult to not have those conversations and to not be bringing your wife into the loop, and then to have years go down the road, have that hidden resentment build, to lose that connection, that intimacy, that all those things with your spouse, and then all of a sudden have it blow up in your face, and then to really have to work hard to either rebuild it or deal with the consequences of not rebuilding it, which is like the worst thing of all for you, for your spouse, for your kids, for like all that. Like that's why it happens. Like, the money side comes after. The infidelity side comes after the fact. The infidelity side doesn't happen, if the wife feels looked after, taken care of, feels like, she's the apple of your eye. It feels like that,
By taken care of, let me just, I
ahead,
know you well enough to know when he says taken care of emotionally. That isn't like buying flowers or sending chocolates or taking you to dinner or a date night once a month.
Yeah.
Taken care of isn't some canned, let me do this for you like you're a child, or like you're this 50s housewife who is very easy to placate.
Right. It's not making
Taken
sure
care of is not placating.
And it's not making sure that she's just got a nice house and a nice car and nice things and then a good patio furniture and all the physical things and shopping that she wants. It's making sure that her emotional needs are met.
Yeah.
Right.
And making sure that she feels empowered to be a partner in the relationship. And in the business construct of the relationship. And I think there's a big difference there. And it's really sad, actually, as you were describing it. It breaks my heart that, people set out there with these big visions, and then the guy, and I'm picking on the guy girl thing, but like, because I'm as driven as the average guy too. And so, we both share that, but, and many of you women also are. So it can go, anyway, that someone, the guy, let's say, just goes full bore to try to get his family to the goals that you originally agreed upon. The challenge is that all of the micro decisions that need to be made in a family and in a relationship along the way, like the daily decisions of who's dropping off the kids tomorrow, who's picking them up, what do you need for time for you, when do we have couple time today, do we have couple time today? No, we're gonna have to put that off until next Thursday, 3 weeks from now at 8 a.m. All right, cool. Let's schedule it in. Do we have parent time today? Like, just touching base on all of those little micro decisions, because those are the things that empower someone to feel like they have representation and they have influence on how their marriage is actually working. And if you don't have that, then she becomes the afterthought, and she becomes the one that he comes home and says, well, how could you be mad at me? Because everything I do is for you. But she's resentful because she's like, hey, what you're doing is your decision, and how you're doing it is your decision. And it's not, you didn't ask me if I wanted you to go out and work 110 hours this week or whatever. You know what I mean? You didn't ask me, you didn't involve me. And so then she feels resentful, and we back up and we go, you're doing that for you because I think you want to escape this family life, because I think you want to escape having to talk to me about feelings and having to have these awkward conversations and having to do the mundane things in life that, quite frankly, are way less fun sometimes, like running a household, than running a business or building a business. It's way sexier to build a business than it is to take the kids to school, to pick them up, to run them to whatever after school things, to go grocery shopping, to make dinner, to clean the stupid dishes that never end, to pick up their crappy socks all over the house. Like, I'd rather be building a business, folks, than doing that. And even if the woman is doing that, or even if the stay-at-home dad or whatever, but you know what I mean? Even if the woman is doing that, that's a super important role, and she wants to and deserves to have the right to buy into what the rest of your schedule looks like. And if she doesn't, she feels like number two. And when someone feels like number two, eventually that's when mistakes happen, that they meet someone who makes them feel like number one. And I know that that's a grisly topic to get into.
Yeah, we don't have time for that right now.
Guys don't want to think about that. Nobody goes out looking for it, but that's how it's found. If your wife feels like number two to you, it doesn't matter if you feel like you're doing it for her. That's how mistakes like that happen.
And that's, to me, that's the most important part of this. And I was talking about it earlier is you need to make sure that your wife always feels like number one. One of the things that I would suggest, and I'm going to wrap this up, is the concept of work-life balance is, like I said, it's just kind of this figment of people's imagination. There's always going to be seasons. You're going to have to work hard, but and sometimes you have to work hard for weeks, months, years at a time to get to where you want to go. But if you have a partnership, a true partnership with your spouse, and you guys talk about the vision, talk about not just the vision on where you want to go, but talk about what you're willing to do to get there, the sacrifices you're going to make, and understanding that, if
each of
you are paying a price to accomplish that success. So if I'm running a business, and this isn't the case for us, but if I'm running the business and she's the stay-at-home mom, right? That for me to run my business and get it to work, it's not just my business. I may be the person on the LLC. I may be the one who's doing all the work in that, but I can't achieve that and have that success without her running the business at home. And in order for that to be successful, it's both businesses have to mesh together, and most people keep them divided. And so for me as the CEO of my business, I have to talk to the CEO of the home business.
Ooh, that's
and make it work together and come up with a business plan and say, okay, our two businesses have to thrive together. What is the home business willing to sacrifice?
This is so new, you guys. He's making this up as he goes.
This is
amazing.
What is the work business willing to sacrifice? What do we need to sacrifice, and what can we sacrifice and actually agree to actually get to where we want to go? And if the answer is we can't sacrifice enough to get this quite there, well, what are we willing to sacrifice? Or do we think that will get us, and are we okay with that? And coming to that place of agreement together, it really is, and it's a constant ebb and flow. But if you start down that path together, and you can start anywhere. We did it horribly for 10 years and maybe 8 years or so, 9 years.
Whatever.
And then for a long time.
You're such a numbers guy.
And then after that, we then made the decision to make a change. And when we first made the change, it wasn't perfect. And it took years of
we read every book
getting better. We read every book.
We did all these things. We learned techniques to do this stuff.
Everything. Yeah. You name it, we probably did it. And so it was very intentional.
And we will continue to.
And so now, and we never rest on our laurels. We never take anything for granted. We always want to be making sure we, understand that we create safe space for each other, that we trust each other, that there's nothing that's off the table, and that everything we do and we say and whatever with each other is with love and with the understanding that we both have the same goals and objectives and desires. And we're not always on the same page. We're not always like in agreement with certain things, but when you communicate about it, that's okay. That doesn't have to blow things up. I think too often people are worried about that. So I would just say that the idea of work-life balance, that's only a problem because you're not having those tough conversations and you're not willing to acknowledge that maybe it's a challenge because what's considered work-life balance for you and your spouse are not on the same page about what's important in your life and what you actually want to do and how you want to get there. And so clear that up, and that'll clear the problem of work-life balance in your life up. What do you think about that? Is that right? Sound good?
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Cool.
Spoil your wife.
Wow.
Happy wife, happy life. That's the other thing.
Read the book, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. If you haven't already, we'll get into another video on that. Actually, let's do our next video on that.
Yeah,
you want
I
to do that?
love the love languages. Oh my gosh. And I just want to give an example too, if I could, real quick.
We got like 2 minutes.
Work-life balance. I just want to let them know because it's like storytelling, right? To give you a little insight into not just preachiness, whatever. Here's how it works for us. Here's our schedule. Sometimes, most mornings, many mornings. Chris will get up early. We both get up early. Yeah, 6, between,
6.
5
Just
to
say
6.
6.
5 to 6. And I am not a morning person at all. You do not want to speak to me before 10 a.m. Just how we roll. He's a great morning person, and he needs less sleep than me. It's so unfortunate, so unfair. I could rule the world if I needed as little sleep as he does. But anyway, so he gets up early. He wakes up with the 3 children, 6, 9, and 2, and prepares them for school. He changes the diapers, he brushes their teeth, he puts on their sunscreen, he gets them dressed. You should see some of those outfits, ladies. Oh my gosh. But it's worth it for me because I'm, doing other things. And sometimes he'll bring me coffee or green tea in bed that I like to drink in bed in the morning. And during that time, while he's getting all of that and I'm listening and just falling in love with him because he's such a wonderful dad, I am getting myself up, sometimes with his help, with a beverage of necessity. And I'm doing my morning workout. Usually I'll do like my weight routine or whatever. I do it at home. Sometimes I'll go to one of my 12-step recovery meetings. And sometimes then, if I don't do that, then I'll do like some meditation, some prayer time, that kind of stuff in the morning. So I have like my good solid 2-hour chunk in the morning when I'm taking care of me. Because if I don't get my mind and my body right for the day, I'm a hot mess and nobody wants to be around me. He bounces out of bed, energized the running, good to go. From there, he takes, I just want to tell them, he takes the kids to school. He drops them off so that I can continue my routine.
Yeah.
Comes back, cranks it out. We work all day. Whoever has the most urgent thing that night is for work is the one who does their urgent thing. And the other person by default does the kids. And then we come back together. We have 1 hour of our time to share our days and, do whatever we want to do during that hour. And then we try to crash. So I just want to give an example of the fact that, yes, you're building like multiple amazing businesses and you're crushing and you're doing amazing, but you can feel the sensitivity to also, if I were the CEO of the domestic business, let's say in this example, to make sure that that relationship is nurtured and I feel cared for. And then it gets better on Saturday mornings when it's not sports. He brings me coffee and sometimes breakfast in bed and lets me read a book and watch the sunrise as long as I want to, and manages the kids downstairs and makes some pancakes. That is how you fall in love with your spouse every weekend.
All right.
I love being lazy. So I hope that was of some service to you guys. Throw us comments. We would love to get ideas of what you'd like us to talk about next. Or if you never want to hear from us again, however that works.
Let us know.
Let us know.
All right, guys, have an amazing night and or day or whatever time you're watching this video. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.